doing, everybody? How are you guys doing? Hope you had a great week. All right. Let's see. Let's get this going.
So where else are we live now? We're on Facebook too?
We're on YouTube. So we're live on YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope, and then Facebook.
Okay. Let's see if I can pick it up.
We coming, guys. Sorry, we're just trying to get this squared away. That's that one. My post is public, right? I want to make sure.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You straight?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Tonight, everybody.
My bad.
Tonight's topic is why does Adam keep messing up? Anyway, so tonight.
That was a good one.
You know what? You know what? Okay, all right.
Tonight's topic is let's talk communication. What you said versus what they heard.
Mm-hmm.
We're bringing up this tonight because it's a popular. I don't want to say popular. This is, to me, this is the backbone of a lot of relationships and/or marriages. It's where the breakdown starts and ends.
Right.
All in communication.
Right.
You know, I said to myself, communication really, I mean, this is really a widespread net, right? Because, I mean, there is, people communicate, let's just take, for instance, people communicate through silence. People communicate through body language, through sex or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
People through anger, sadness, happiness, fighting. The key is to just simply be able to interpret the waves as they arrive, because they will come.
All right.
Texting, believe it or not, is really a dismissive form of communication.
A dismissive form of communication?
Absolutely.
Wow.
This may come back to home, but still, it's dismissive. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. It's dismissive because there are some conversations that's meant that warrant your emotion, your ear, your passion, your compassion, your empathy, whatever.
Right.
And through the text, you miss it. I mean, you can sit on there, and some people can be. I've seen some talented texters. You be like, this looks like a story, but you know, you be like, well, at the end of the day, some people can text. Some people can text. Let me tell you why. When people can text you really fast and hardly no errors, that's some talented texting.
Yeah, you're right.
That's some good stuff. You be like, you get on my nerve. Get too fast. I can't even keep up. This is too much. I can't even argue Texas again.
Right.
But anyway, so you have that.
That's crazy.
So
but true.
Yeah, and so you know, you look at the whole communication piece. It's like Adam brought up another good point earlier today. He was talking about one important part is when you are communicating with someone. Another important thing to keep in mind is the particular headspace that person is in. That makes all the difference. Like you could be coming and saying something super, but they don't want to be bothered with you. All of what you're saying is a mute point. They're like, you know, I'll just go on to it, just whatever. And so, you know, all that stuff makes a point. We really appreciate, you know, Natalie and all that she does to publish and be our publisher and, you know, the publicist. She's just great, you know. But anyway,
what is going on?
Guys, I know she gets distracted. We're friends.
I'm not. I am totally focused.
You're
Hello, everybody.
She's
I'm a Gemini, so my ability to multitask is amazing.
It's probably too amazing. But anyway,
too amazing.
All right, let's get ready to go into our dissertation, as you call it, for the evening.
Let's talk communication, what you said versus what they heard. It doesn't matter which angle or approach you take towards relationships, there's not anything quite as imperative as the subject of communication. For it is the very lifeline to many of our relational failures and successes. I feel like, why are y'all looking?
Okay, I'm not
Okay.
Don't look at it. Don't look at it.
We won't.
Really?
That'd be great.
Really?
Anyway,
Charles, everybody.
our ability to interpret what was said most often prompts some sort of action and or reaction, whereas the make and break of our relationships and marriages comes down to either how clearly something was articulated or whether or not it was understood correctly. Clarity of expression is the cleansing agent to confusion. If you think about it, how could armies function, sports teams compete, executive corporations succeed with other entities, etc., if it were not for the notion of communication? So there is no doubt how seriously we should embrace this relative action of expression in our lives. And that's what we're talking about tonight.
We kept it pretty short this time, right? Didn't take it too long, right?
It was really wordy, but it was short. You did what you could. You did
No,
what
see,
you could.
here's a perfect example. My attempt this week was to have a silent communication by. You see,
Oh my God.
Sorry for the ghetto simultask. Anyway, what we're saying is, I said this week, here's a perfect example. Without talking to Natalie or saying anything, I said, I'm going to write a short narrative. I'm going to be short and to the sweet.
Okay.
I'm not going to worry about it.
Okay.
I'm just going to.
Thinking about it.
I was considering Natalie
Right.
and her perplexities when she's reading at times.
Ah, okay.
Wow.
Particularly because of her grade school, issues.
Wow.
Anyway, so I brought the
Wow.
I'm gonna have so many jokes throughout
Oh
the
my
show.
God.
He's
Oh my
not safe.
God.
You're not gonna be safe today.
Wow.
No, but anyway, so I brought
He's
this
not
to
gonna be
Natalie.
safe.
I said, Natalie will appreciate this. And what she does, she turns and says it's still wordy. That's
It is.
communication is big.
It's just how you are.
Lord,
But anyway, all right, guys. Do you guys have comments up? We want to get in. We want to include the comment folks early on. Where's Miss Ava?
Ava is watching and she is ready to interact with us tonight. So let's get to
All right.
talking.
All right. So I tell you what. Let's start from the top and trickle down. And when I say the top, good, bad, or indifferent, I consider you and Rhonda have went to the lengths of commitment by way of marriage and this, that, and the other. So you guys hopefully understand communication on another level, right? Natalie and I are just at the picket fence doing like this. Hey, can you hear me? No,
The
so
house isn't even in the yard.
He's not even in the yard. He's still in the car.
don't
I'm
worry
waiting on
about
my
Natalie.
baby.
He's on the roof.
She doesn't even have any
wagging
shoes
his tail.
on.
Oh, y'all know
She's
what.
not even ready in the least bit.
Y'all
But anyway,
crazy.
so listen. All right, we're gonna let you guys kind of, since you, like you said, since you took that for those that are the married folks out there, right? They want to, because they have some communication issues on a big scale.
Yeah.
And so talk about that a little bit.
You want to go first? You want to go first?
Go ahead.
I mean, I think like I was saying in the pre-show banter, communication, it takes time to develop that understanding between you and your significant other, because everybody does not communicate in the same way. So it's going to take me a moment to adjust how you communicate, to understand what you're saying, and even what you're not saying. You know what I'm saying? To pay attention to you. And one of the things that I really want to kind of reiterate throughout this conversation is the fact that as important as it is for us to communicate, we also must practice the discipline of active listening. Because I believe that is the missing component of communication. If I'm talking to you, but you're not listening to me, then my communication is ineffective. Because you're not listening to what I'm saying to you. And so I think a lot of times what we do is we hear what the other person is saying, but we're just biding our time, we're just waiting so that we can rebuff them or that we can come back at them. Instead of listening for understanding, listening for comprehension, and really just going to the point of being able to empathize and sympathize with the person that we're talking to. Being in a marriage, you have to do that on a constant basis. That's something you have to practice every single day. You know what I'm saying? And especially when you have disagreements, even more so. Because a lot of times we allow our emotions to dictate what we say instead of actually talking about the issue at hand. We allow our emotions to tell us what we say and instead of really talking about what's really going on in my mind, in my heart. You know what I'm saying? But I think what needs to happen is we need to figure out how to talk to each other in a way that the other person understands what we're saying. So.
I I know that I'm extremely guilty of doing exactly what you said.
Okay.
I'm the person that is. When you're talking to me, I'm not there because I'm thinking about what I'm going to say back in return, especially if I'm angry.
Yeah.
So I'm not listening. I'm not really comprehending what you're saying. It's kind of going in one ear and out the other because I'm so focused on what is going to be my reply, what's going to be my rebuttal. But I learned that when I was maturing in my communication skills, I was aware of that.
Okay.
So I was able to say to myself, you're not listening.
Right.
You're too angry, so you have to calm down and you have to clearly hear him out and hear what he's saying and take it all in.
Yeah.
So I know that for a fact that I suffer from that, and that's horrible communication.
Yeah.
So I would say that being married, I learned how to practice doing that better, to be a better listener and more effective listener.
I think it's important because, again, the person, here's the thing, and here, I want you to really understand this part. The person that you're talking to, they have something to say. What they have to say, you have to consider it before you make a decision. But if you never hear what they have to say, how can you make a decision about it? You know what I'm saying? It's as if, you want to jump to the conclusion before you consider all the evidence on the table. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's important that if we're going to walk together in this relationship with one another, then we really have to take the time to not only talk to each other, but listen to what the other person is saying. You know, a lot of times when I'm talking with my baby, you know what I'm saying, and we're having a disagreement about something, I make a cognitive effort to not say anything, but to really listen to what she's saying. Because I want to consider what she's saying. Because she might be right. She might have a valid point in what she's saying to me. But if I'm so occupied with, I got to say something back to her, I got to get back at her, I got to say this, I got to say that, then I'm already lost.
I feel like as long as I'm communicating with someone who is owning their truth, which means they're being truthful and honest about what they're saying, then I am a good listener. I can listen and be attentive for a long time. But if I feel like you're lying and nothing that's coming out your mouth is the truth, then I'm done listening. I'm shut down. There's no communicating with you. But as long as you're talking and it's going the right way and I feel like you're being honest and truthful, even if I don't agree with it, as long as you're being honest and forthcoming and truthful about it, then I'm able to listen.
So would you consider that objective communication? Think about it. I mean, because all of us, I've done it. Like we've been in communications, and I'll say something like, when someone is saying something that I really don't want to hear, I would like, let's just revisit this for another day. No, just being honest. So I would like, let's just table this, and I know it's wrong, right? And so the point I wanted to point out with that is, do we think when that occurs, do we think that is in turn speaking to a bigger issue of selfishness or dismissiveness in us? When you don't want to, when you want to shut people down.
You
know, something like that.
As long as you're communicating and it's not an argument, then you should communicate about it. If it's leading into you raising your voice or turning into argument, then I think that it's okay to say, well, let's have this discussion at a later time. But as long as you're responding like two sound-minded adults and you're able to keep your tempers at the right level, then I think that you should discuss it at that time. Because that's the reason why you're sitting there, to communicate about it at that time.
And let me just add something to this too. I know you're talking about arguing. I think too also that when it comes to, there are different forms of communication. Okay? I think arguing, it doesn't necessarily have to be as volatile as we have made it out to be. There's a way to have a discussion that is definitely passionate. You believe in what you believe in, so you really want to make your point about it, but not to the point where you're trying to hurt the person. See, now we've stepped into a whole other realm. Now we're talking about retaliation. We're not talking about arguing. So arguing is, I'm trying to get you to understand my point, and you're trying to get me to understand your point. There's a way to do that effectively without trying to hurt the person that you're talking to. When you go to calling people out of their name, saying all types of derogatory statements to one another, you're literally deriding each other, then you've crossed over into a whole nother level.
And for me, I know when I'm talking about something and I'm passionate about it, I get loud. And so some people can take that as offensive. They can think that that is escalating into argument. But no, that's just who I am. When I'm passionate about something, Whether I'm laughing and telling a joke, I'm gonna be loud about it. And if I'm getting upset where it's leading into an argument, I'm gonna be loud about it. But it doesn't necessarily to me compute to an argument.
Okay.
Like that doesn't mean to me I'm arguing with you.
Okay.
It just means that's my tone.
Right.
And to me it goes back to like what you said, learning my communication skills,
Right.
learning how my personality is. That's how I communicate.
Yeah.
When I'm passionate about something, I get loud about it.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that, you know, every human has had a series of life events or life occurrences that have happened to them that have formulated the ideas and the opinions they have.
Absolutely.
And it is perfectly okay for them to have a different set
Absolutely.
of beliefs about what they've gone through in their life versus what you've gone through.
Yeah.
And I think that when you get to a point where you're at a bridge in the road, you need to remember that this person has come to that conclusion based on their life experiences,
Exactly.
which may not be the same as yours.
Right.
So you have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And I know that I can remember a relationship that I was in where everything was like a big drawn out like argument for days, and I would say to myself like, I don't agree with what you're saying.
Right.
You don't agree with what I'm saying.
Right.
You being mad and having an attitude is not going to make me agree
Right.
with what you're saying.
Right.
So why don't
Right.
we just say, hey, we feel differently about
Right.
this, and then talk about something else and move on beyond that. But I just think it's important to remember that people are entitled to have their opinion, and it may not be the same as yours.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing of it is, and again, I think you were trying to talk about whether it's objective.
Right.
The reality is it's always going to be subjective. Because it's always going to be based on me as a person. I'm always going to have my idiosyncratic, unique way of looking at a certain thing. Just like you have your own way of looking at a certain thing.
Exactly.
And just like you have your own way of looking at a certain thing. It's always going to be based on you as a person. Here's the issue. The issue is, can you get me to understand your perspective? That's where the issue is. And sometimes that's where the impasse comes into play. In terms of me being able to acquiesce to you and say, you know what? I see what you're saying from your perspective. Your point is valid. Let's figure out how to make this thing work.
Well, that's where attitude comes into play.
Okay.
Because you have to be receptive. See,
True.
that's the biggest part is, are you receptive to receive the fairness of a fair exchange?
Okay.
You know, some people just, like you said, they want to hear their part.
Right.
And to them, that's all that matters. I'm right, you're wrong, shut up,
right.
Boy, bye, right, whatever.
But you know what though? Let me just say
yeah.
this, and I said this to my bae a while ago, and she even brought it up a while ago, and we were kind of laughing about it, but it's true. You can be right all day long and argue your point to the point where you literally just, I'm desiccated as a result of your arguing me all the way down. You can be right, but you're gonna be right by yourself.
Right.
You're gonna be right by yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Because after a while, all your rightness is just driving me out the door. You know what I'm saying? Let's figure out a way to work together on this. I don't have to be right. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be right. I want you to understand what I'm saying, but I don't need to be right. I'm just trying to figure out a solution to this problem.
I think the big truth in this whole thing, people, we find it hard not to receive not being right.
Wow.
We find it hard to
Wow.
look past. Don't be somebody to think you smart.
Oh God.
You don't, or think you are high up for whatever reason you call it. You don't want to be wrong ever, and that's
Right.
one of the worst positions to be in as a person,
Right.
because you got to be open and fair. But we always kind of think, what? We get dismissive. We don't want to hear it, but that's a bad place to be. Humility.
Okay.
To try to get to that place, because if you can arrive at being humble, you can be somebody else.
Right.
And you can at least be open to finding some sort of resolve.
Yeah.
But if you're not humble, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just, it's never a good way to be when you are so stubborn and so dead set in your ways that you're not willing to give the other person the consideration that they should have from you. Especially if this is the person that you say that you love. And that you want to be with.
Yeah, forget about dating. Love.
I'm talking about being in a committed relationship with this person, but you don't even want to give them the consideration, the possibility that their point might be valid. Really? Really?
I think you have to pay attention to people that hold on to things and stew. Like, it should be important if you're in a relationship that you value to want to get to a better place.
Yeah,
Like I just
absolutely.
can't imagine being with somebody that I say I love and I care about and being comfortable with things being uncomfortable.
Right.
You know, at some point
Okay.
you have to
Yeah,
want
that's
to
true.
get to a better place.
Yeah.
And that's where you'll be able to compromise.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so you believe whatever you believe, and I believe what I believe. But are we gonna fight about this today and tomorrow, or can we just get to a better place?
Right.
And move beyond it.
But you know, I'll throw something else, and then we can go into the because I see the comments are lighting up.
Yeah, they're right.
Here's another thing that goes into play with, I believe, is why there's a big breakdown in communication. Not only is there an increase in impatience, but I believe just the way we kind of move nowadays is different than how we used to move.
Okay.
And nowadays people are looking at, I mean, think about it. I'm sure all of you know friends or someone else that may have a relationship situation, and you may be saying, girl, it's not that bad. Girl, I am done because, see, I'm going to mess with Kevin. Everybody is looking to the left and the right at option A and B. You know, and nobody is kind of being patient enough to look in the face of their person and say, you know what, I shouldn't, you know what, you're right. Let me take ownership. I lied. I wasn't honest. I didn't do this. You did tell me this, and you said it plenty of times. I didn't listen to you.
Right.
I messed up.
Right.
Nowadays, it's just, what? And then we just gone. Left, right. We got somebody sitting over there.
Right.
Somebody sitting over there. And
Right.
as a result of that, nothing is, because you know what, here's the biggest deception. You can go left or right. You're still going to have issues.
Right.
We
Yeah,
get fooled
that's the
on that.
thing.
We always
That's
look
the
at the
thing.
options as, oh, I got this plethora. You got a plethora of problems.
Problems.
Because as
Potential
soon as
problems.
you become, trust me, as soon as you get bills with somebody, bills and bills, or when you become intimate, it's going to over implode.
Right.
It's just going to happen.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
whenever feelings get involved or money gets involved,
Okay.
you're going to have some problems.
Right.
And so there is no, it's just, it comes down to who can you deal with and relate to better.
There you go.
Best.
There you
Because
go.
you're not going to be able to avoid it. I don't care who
Right.
this person is, how better at this or that they are, still going to be some issues.
Right.
So you can't avoid dealing with communication.
It's still going to be some
Communication,
issues because you still with it.
Correct.
You
You
go
still
on
going-
to
you
somebody
going over
else.
there. Correct.
And whatever issues you have, you take it with you.
Correct. Correct.
The worst people that I find it, the most difficult for me to communicate with are also the people that when you come to them about something, like if I say, hey Nat, can I talk to you about something? Or Charles, I need to talk to you about something. And then I say, I didn't like it when you did such. And they'll say, but what about when you did this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot
yeah.
stand
Yeah.
that type of
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
I cannot stand that type of person. I'm like, no, talk to me. If you want to talk about that, then you had the
Let's
opportunity.
let's stay in real time. Let's stay in real time.
Right.
You had the opportunity to bring it to me on your time, but this is my time, and I
Right.
chose to. I'm bringing up whatever it is that's bothering me, but they'll take that time to deflect and say, no, let's talk about whatever you did. And I'm like, no, that's not the time for
Yeah.
this. They're trying to
Don't
take
cheat and add
Right.
things on.
Right,
to
we
it.
can
Yeah.
talk about you. We
Right.
talk about
But you know what? I think a lot of these problems go. If you look back historically, a lot of us, at least as blacks, we weren't taught to deal with critique. Think
Okay.
about when you were young and you
Okay.
were sat down. Adam, I think you're a good son, but you listen. You failed at this. You don't do good at this, but you are good at this. How about working on this?
Right.
And then have you sit there and be like, we don't
Right.
want to hear. So nowadays, criticism is like communication.
It
When
is
someone
criticism.
is
It is
talking to
communication.
you
Yeah.
about something that displeases them, that's like you having to sit there on it and take it. And
Right.
you're like, I will not. I'm leaving.
Right.
And people don't want to sit there and deal with it. They get
Yeah.
upset. They want to get you
Yeah.
back.
But I
That's
think
real.
I know something
Yeah.
that's very key
That's
when
real.
it comes to that. I think that child starts with childhood. I think that all these parents that tell their kids nothing but you're great, you're
Yes.
wonderful all the time and never
Set
tell
'em
them.
up.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
set them up for the
yeah.
letdown. And when they become an adult or a young teenager, they're not able to take the ridicule. They're not able to take the judgment because
Right.
they've been so used to being put up on a pedestal and told how wonderful they are by their parents that when they have to start communicating and getting out in the real world with other people, they're not able to do it.
Right. Let's go to the comments now. They firing up.
Okay. P. Coffee said that's one of the main reasons for the breakdown is because people are not focused on one person and building one relationship. It's becoming really messy out here in these relationship streets, SMH. Katonya, who's replying, I'm sorry. Katonya said the accusation of being emotional is the escape route not to hear us. I agree with
Wow.
that.
Wow.
And she says also, my, that's so true, Adam. Stubbornness and being set in your ways is one of the major breaches in communicating, especially in the male-female scenario, because the average man will accuse of us being emotional or really hearing what we have to say, rather than really hearing what we have to say.
Wow.
Capri says, I can admit being wrong, which is far and few in between, but it's all about
You know what, Capri?
She's honest though.
You know what, Capri?
She's she's self-aware.
Right.
Okay.
Janice, our dear friend, says,
Hey,
for
Janice.
me, that is the sexiest thing a man can do,
Right.
to effectively communicate to me why I am wrong. That I'm like, wow, he's right. That can be mind-blowing.
Yeah, that can be.
Yeah.
Tanil says, indeed, effective communication can solve so many things just by listening and being honest. However, if the person perceives it as an argument or an attack, the attempt to communicate is dead in the water. Therefore, you must have an understanding of how your partner communicates best, or how and when. Debbie says, good stuff, Adam. You will be right and alone. Tanil, indeed, effective communication can solve so many things just by being listening and being honest. Tanil, I think I'm reading your comment twice.
Yeah, you read it.
Yeah.
Caprice, communication definitely comes in the level of maturity. Kimley, I have found some people really can't speak their emotions or feelings and respond with things such as, I can't talk about this right now, or shut down and say nothing and hold it in, forcing you to try to read their minds.
Wow.
Not speaking is a major breakdown in communication as well.
It is.
I agree.
It is.
Ava said there's a way to disagree without arguing.
It is.
It is.
Let's see, Kimley, I concur. Communication requires active listening. Many people can hear but can't listen.
Yeah.
However, I believe another missing element in communication is speaking your truth. Yeah.
I agree that I think Janice said it, that if a man tells me I'm wrong the right way, it's a turn on for me, super sexy to me. But if he comes at me the wrong way, then like I said, I'm shutting down.
Yeah.
Another thing that plays the part, and I believe Tanil mentioned something about how someone can perceive something as an argument.
Right.
You know what that comes from? History.
Okay.
History with someone.
Right.
History is just a pack of facts put together, right? And so when you look at people's history, and typically it's not fair, right? But we typically pull from what we perceive you to do, and what have you done before.
Right.
And so if I talk to you and I see an inclining of that coming up to the plate,
right.
Oh, that's it. You know what? Do
Even
this
if
another
it's
day.
your body language.
Yeah, it's the body language, and the person may be trying to be better at it.
Right.
But we pull from history and be like, no, because I know how you go. That's okay. We're not doing this.
But
Wow.
just to even unload that a little bit more, it may not even be the history that you have with the person. It can
Maybe
be
somebody else's
that
history.
they
Yes.
had
With someone else.
With someone
Well,
else.
yeah.
I can remember dating this person, and they would say like, well, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to have this argument. I'm like, but it's not an argument. At this point, it's a conversation where we share different opinions.
Right.
So that's not an argument.
Right.
That's a conversation where we just don't agree with what each other is saying. And what I learned by digging a little bit deeper is that he had come from a relationship where he felt like his opinion was always attacked, and so he was internalizing and projecting onto this new situation. And that's a turn off.
Right.
I don't like people.
difficult to
I don't
deal with.
like people that are hypersensitive in one area or one direction or the other. For example, like you said, in a relationship that you're in, someone who's hypersensitive by you just having a discussion and they think that it's an argument, or by someone who's used to being abusive and they're talking to you in a very demeaning manner and tone, and they think that that's normal.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Because in their world,
because in their world, that's normal.
That's normal.
They'll talk to you any kind of way, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, I'm just talking. No, that's not normal.
Right.
It's not. That's
normal
not.
people don't talk
right.
like that. Normal people aren't abusive to other people trying to get their point across.
And like you said, and then if you're talking about, I don't know, like the toilet seat being left up or the top being off the toothpaste, and then they want to go into, that's why y'all all got different daddies, or your mother so and so. It's like you're talking about the top being off the toothpaste. Like, why are you taking?
Why are you going that route?
Why are you taking these below the belt jabs? I cannot communicate.
That's
Pay
abusive.
attention to people's ability to be mean, just like that.
Yeah. That's the first thing that they go to. And honestly, if you think about it, it's more of a defense mechanism. Because they're trying to throw you off guard at the same time as they're trying to prove themselves right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you have to be aware of that fact. And that's why a lot of times, again, if you listen to the person, you can tell what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let me throw something in there that I think women may not be aware of.
Okay.
They might, but they may not.
Okay.
Okay, so truth is truth, period, right? Truth is truth in communication.
Okay.
But truth from a woman is painful. When a woman lays into a guy, it's, I mean, you don't even understand how, like, because, you know, it's her, it's the truth.
Okay.
You don't like it, but it hurts because she's just like, you and you, and it just feels like you literally feeling it all.
Like
I'm
a
telling
demon.
you, it's psychological, because when women come to you with truth, they come with facts. And when they have facts, they stacking the bricks. They stacking the bricks, and they
We're
know
not
it.
even coming to you until we have our facts.
And
I
so,
got my FBI.
We're like the FBI. Like, that you did
and so
something.
not only does it hurt, but like I said in the pre-show, they are so sharp in the way they deliver it.
Right.
That you can hit from all sides. It feel like, you know, like with Natalie, it made me think about what she was talking about when the guy said to her, you know, when you said he was deflecting or something, right?
Yeah.
But there's something about when women talk in your tone, the
Yeah,
tone. And see,
absolutely.
Natalie, listen.
Yeah.
You have a tone, right? You got a tone about you that can come across accusatory.
Yeah.
She has a tone, and it's just who she is. But if
Right.
you don't know her on that level,
You would
and
know.
if you some new person talking
Right.
to her, you'll be
You
like,
get
it'll
hurt.
make you feel like, well,
I
God
ask
damn.
very specific. I am a trained salesperson. I ask only what I need to know. I am highly trained.
Now
only
check
what
this
I
out.
need to know.
You hear? Listen, I'm
I
going
ask
to show
only what
y'all
I need to
something.
know.
Listen to Natalie
Why?
talking.
I don't understand.
No.
Why every time we have a
It's
show?
gonna be good,
Why
yes.
every time we have a show, you
my
turn
God.
your beady
This is
little
good.
eyes over there and talk to me about what I'm
Oh,
doing.
God.
Check this
Boy,
out.
you better focus.
Now, here's the thing. You hear how Natalie has that monotone? She's like and I told them so and so and so.
Right.
That's the worst voice from her.
Okay.
But the other side of Natalie, you hear her when she comes to the door, hey guys, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It gives off a total different
Totally
energy.
different, yeah.
But when she
Yeah,
gives
yeah.
that energy and she's talking to a man and telling you about yourself,
Yeah.
no guy won't be able to take that. They'll be like, oh, let's conversation is over.
Can I
no.
turn a notch up on that one? Let me
Yeah.
turn a notch up on that one. Take that and add that to a relationship that you're committed in.
And you marry this
And
person,
you
yeah.
marry this person.
Ooh.
And they turn that thing. And here's the thing. This is the thing I try to explain to my babe on a regular basis. You know, on a regular
You said
basis,
my babe.
so that she
That's
understands.
hilarious.
Here's the thing.
It's both sides.
Here's the
My
thing.
babe.
You, for a man, when a man accepts you into his life and he takes you into his heart, you are in a very powerful place.
Correct. Of
Very
access.
powerful place.
Absolutely.
Your words, hear me when I say this, your words are life and death to a man.
Correct. That's it.
Life and death to a man.
That's
So all I'm saying is use caution,
Yeah.
use discernment when you're talking to him.
Right.
Especially if it's something that you know that can possibly
Derail
hurt
him.
him.
Yeah.
That's sensitive. I believe the same is true for women, but I think it's more so for men because when we open up to you, we open up to you.
Yeah.
We've accepted you. You're all the way in.
Yeah.
You've got all the power as far as we're concerned.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, it's just I'm just saying.
And that is a lesson that I learned from being married, going back to Charles saying about you and I being married before. Not to demean my spouse or my mate with my mouth and my
Yeah.
tongue.
Yeah.
We are very gifted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when women lay into you, it's like none of it.
Yeah.
That's
It
true.
really is.
Yeah. And that's something I definitely had to learn.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and I think I've always believed, it's not what you say as much as it is how you say it. Your tone, your vernacular, your cadence.
Yes. Tone is everything. Yeah.
All
Tone is
that
everything.
added in
It
there.
matters.
You
It
know
matters.
what I'm saying? In the same way that you say, baby, I love you.
Right.
That's a whole lot.
Yeah.
That's a whole
Right.
paragraph right there.
Right.
In that same tone, you reverse that, nigga, you get on my dang. Oh,
Right.
But you know what? Can I throw something out there? I think that I can agree that women, the way that we speak to men, can tear them down. But I think that on the opposite end, the way that men and their not even how you talk, your actions, your dismissive behavior is equivalent to us. The same way you feel like a sharp tongue. A sharp tongue stabs you, but dismissive behavior and silent treatments and just pushing a woman to the side has the same equivalent effect on us. So I think if you look at a relationship, the same way you would encourage women to be mindful of the tone of their voice, you guys have to be mindful of the behavior that you're showing and how you move. Because men have a tendency to brush off things as if it is at the bottom bottom of their totem pole of peers. And I think that is just as stabbing and hurtful as a woman's tongue. So I think, we both kind of have to
I remember when I was married, my mother-in-law told me that the greatest skill that a woman can possess is the art of convincing a man to do what she's told him to do or asked him to do, but making him think that it was his great idea. So for example, if he comes in from work and you're like, I wish you'd take that garbage out. Versus, oh, could you be a dear and take the garbage out for me? Or I've been waiting for my big strong man to get home from work so he can take that garbage out for me.
I got a big strong son. Come on, Kevin.
But it's all in our design.
I can hear the ghost of Janice over there. She's turning her wheels.
Where is she at? Where is
Janice? I don't gotta look at the comments. I get you. I'm gonna tell you what Janice probably got annoyed at your comment about being very careful because she's saying, and let's be fair. This is a new day, right?
Okay.
This is woman. This is man, right? And so at the end of the day, women are saying, okay, but why do we have to dance around your emotions? We have feelings. Why we gotta dance around how you feel? Why we gotta handle you so delicately? You're the man. I'm just being honest.
Because and I think we talked about this earlier. Okay, it's an exchange. You have to see the relationship as an exchange.
Right.
If I'm not dismissive to my woman, if I appreciate my woman, if I let her know that I'm her man, not just in what I say, but in what I do, and I demonstrate that on a regular basis, she has to reciprocate, or she should reciprocate in terms of how she speaks to me. Because again, she's in a very powerful place. She's in a man's heart. If you are in a man's heart, then yes, I would definitely be aware of what I say and how I say it. Because again, if I'm your man, then I'm not going to be dismissive of you. I'm going to apprise you. I'm going to put you on that pedestal for sure.
But the reality of the matter is that the situation you're talking about, a man that values a woman, he's and not even married, because relationships can be married, they can be boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. I think that a man that operates in that way is less likely to hear the sharp tongue of a woman. We are speaking about a man who is dismissive, who will put you off to the side, a liar, a cheater, maybe will put other people or other things ahead of you. That person is more likely to feel a sharp tongue. And then at that point, when you're operating in a way that is not respectful of the woman, I don't know how you could expect to be placed on a pedestal and power. That's just unrealistic.
Here's the flip side to that. That's very true what she just said. Here's the other side. You have what you call the brat factor, right? The brat factor is people
that
who...
is definitely a Charles idea.
I'm going to project it. But no, here's the thing.
It does.
Sometimes she's right. Our failure to kind of rise up to the occasion can get us the tongue, right? The other side is you not doing what I want you to do. You just spoiled. You a brat. And it's because I'm not doing
that's a lot of times, and I'm not speaking for all women, but I can tell you that one of the most annoying things, if it gets under a man's skin to hear a woman raise her voice or to talk, as you described, in a monotone way towards you that you find demeaning, it is equally offensive for a man to act as if he cannot hear, comprehend, or understand what it is she's trying to communicate to him. And that is what likely will lead to a sharper tongue.
Guess what, Nally? Millions and billions of men across the world have been taught this. We have been taught, if she act crazy, ignore her, leave out, walk out the house, don't sit around and engage with her, shut down, and just go into your corner. That's what we were taught. We weren't taught this. Now, what is it?
But we're trying to operate in a new millennial environment of dating with old vintage information. At this point, we kind of have to adjust because as we discussed on many panels before, it's a different dating age. So things that work for our grandparents and even some of our older parents are not working as well now because we have different things at our hands. So it's old, outdated, vintage information, and so we do kind of have to adjust as the time.
I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the fact that as men as a whole, we were not taught how to communicate in that way, in terms of really being open and vulnerable with who we are as people. We weren't taught that particular skill set. We weren't taught that. Some of us have learned how to do that, but from when we're raised up into this world, we're not necessarily taught how to do that. Now, women, on the other hand, with their moms, they're definitely taught how to communicate.
Correct.
You guys are way better communicators than
Yeah.
men are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not making an excuse for it, but what I am saying is that for men, we're at a disadvantage in terms of communicating in the correct way. You know what I'm saying? In terms of you understanding us and us understanding you. What I do believe what needs to happen is that we need to at least figure out a way that is effective in terms of communication with each other. You know what I'm saying?
I wish that we as black women could break the age-old stereotype of us being hard to communicate with. That has frustrated me over the years, and so for me, being a black woman, I try to focus in on that because I don't want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be labeled as the angry black woman that you can't communicate with.
Okay.
Right.
So I would love to know what we could do as a whole, as black women, to take that stereotype away from us and start working on that not being our label and our title.
Right.
I don't know
Well,
how we can do that, but
it's. I mean, it can be done, but it's going to be a challenge, right? It's going to take
but
work.
why has that label and title been just put on us?
What do you mean by like what? In terms
By
of
us being, having the sharp tongue and being the most difficult race of women to communicate.
You know what I think?
Wow.
I honestly think that it is the most ignorant viewpoint in the world
think that's our
to say that the only woman that angers, the only woman
That's
that
not
has
true
the
at all.
ability to have a sharp tongue is a black woman.
But,
That's not
but
true.
it's been going around.
Latino women,
Ask me how I know.
Asian women, white women, Arab women, every woman, no
I
matter
can
the
tell
color,
you
race, or whatever, has the
that
ability
I can tell you
to
that
get upset.
my bae, she not black, she's Mexican, and she can
Exactly.
come at you.
She can,
hard.
but you know,
Okay?
I think if
Thank you.
That's what I'm just saying. I'm just saying. There been some times I've been like, dang.
but I think if we unpack and unload that idea just a little bit, that it could possibly stem from a
You know
person
what?
making
Okay,
an
so let's
excuse.
deal with reality
Like,
then.
black women are angry, black women are sad.
Let's deal with the reality of it then. The reality of it then is I believe what happened was there were a few African American women that conducted themselves in this way and gave a bad name to the majority, unfortunately. Now, just like with some black men, they see most black men as thugs.
Yeah, that's true.
It was funny. I went into when
Most
I was
black people is
when I went
lazy.
into your when I went
Yeah.
into waiting for you in the lobby of your office building today, and I had my little black hat on, had my little coat on, whatever like
They
that.
looking at you.
I knew security was checking me out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then I know they were checking because I had my hat on and I was, I had all my black on or whatever like that. And so they look at us based on how we appear to them, and we're stereotyped based on our aesthetics rather than who I am as a person. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, it's happened to black women.
You know what it was?
What?
Your shoes. Go ahead. Go ahead. They said
I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. I know, right?
any kind of guy that comes here with these shoes, he's a terrorist.
Whatever, Joe.
Anyway, go ahead.
Whatever,
All right, go ahead.
man. No, but I think it's going right. It's going to take time to dismiss that stereotype.
Janice just made a good point.
Yeah, I was going to say
think
that. Yeah.
Adam is using the generational excuse as a reason why black men haven't stepped up in the communication game. At what point do you realize your upbringing shortcomings and do better? And I agree with
Yeah,
Janice
that's
at
a good
that
point.
point. Like the same way that it is important for women, because I think that what we hear. Not just here on this panel tonight, but in life in general, is you gotta watch your tone.
Right.
You don't want to be an angry black woman.
Right.
But I think that door swings the opposite way too.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to communicate and not be so dismissive. And it's like you said, if you guys were taught, or Charles said, you were always taught to kind of deflect and get away from the problem.
Right.
That isn't conducive to solving a problem the same way screaming, hollering, and yelling isn't.
Well, yeah.
So we need new information in order to exist in the relationships that are happening today. We need new
Well, I
information.
think a large part of it is going to be how we educate ourselves, how we educate ourselves to become better communicators. I know one of the things that I do with my children, particularly with my oldest son, is to teach them how to talk, teach them how to effectively communicate with other people so that they understand what he needs from them. I think, honestly, I think it's going to be this next generation. I think there are some things that we can do, but we're not going to see a total turnaround until generations, to come. You know what I'm saying? So that we teach them how to talk.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, just to go a little bit further than that, I also think it's important to, in the Black community, for whatever reason, we really look down on counseling and therapy.
Yeah, we do.
And we look down on it in our personal lives. And as it relates to relationships, the only people that we're willing to be counseled by are pastors, and that's not always applicable depending on the situation in your relationship.
Right.
So I think that something else we need to start embracing is sitting down with somebody else who's third party objective, who's not biased at all, and having a conversation, because sometimes it takes for someone else that doesn't know you to point out, hey, you know what, you do kind of do that a little bit, in order for you to embrace it. Hey, maybe that's a problem.
That's a good point.
You know what, in our race, unfortunately, like in other races, it's looked at as a positive thing.
Yeah, it is.
In our races, it's pointing out we have a problem.
Like, oh my God, you gotta go to a therapist?
Yeah, we don't want to
acknowledge it.
Yeah, because they consider you to be crazy.
Correct.
Yeah.
They look at you being crazy for going to a counselor, but the reality is, like you said, other races look at it as a plus.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though, and you have to, you really have to recognize that we can't do it all by ourselves.
No.
And that's what we're saying. See, I think we were raised to think that we could do it all by ourselves, that we didn't need nobody else. But the reality is, because of the fact that if we don't have anybody else to help us, then we're not going to be able to make it. We don't want to ask for help. We don't know how to ask for help most of the time.
And I think that there are people out there who are highly qualified to have a conversation with you about what you're going through. You are not the first person that they've met that have had that situation. And if they have proven success stories of helping people to get through that, I think it's almost silly to throw away your relationship without at least attempting that first, especially in a married situation where you guys have committed to each other and maybe you have things established together. It's ridiculous to completely abandon a relationship without at least seeking out therapy or counseling to help you see, the error in your ways. Because sometimes, like I said, it takes for other people to point out, hey, you know what, you do this a little bit for people to embrace their truths.
Yeah, my brother, my sister, and I, we made a pact with each other and our children that we didn't like the way we were raised. And we were raised, of course, the old school way that, you stay in your place, you do what you're told, you don't ask questions. And so we didn't think that was necessarily fair when we were coming up. So we collectively decided to start having family group meetings with our kids. So our kids are allowed to sit down with us and tell us their truth, to tell us how they truly feel about something, whether it's a rule around the house or anything that they want to talk about, whether it's sex, cursing, or whatever it is that's on their mind. They can come to us and sit down and share their true feelings about it without feeling like they're being shut down. And I think that is working on teaching them how to communicate effectively, like you're saying, I said earlier about starting from childhood and kind of rearing yourself up to know how to do it effectively as an adult. So the funny part about it is that now we've started this thing with doing so where my mother is granny number 1, my sister's granny number 2, because we go in age of order. I mean order of age, and then I'm granny number 3, and then my daughter would be generation number 4, so she's granny number 4. So what we'll do, you know how Kevin Hart has that word like pineapple to let you know you're going too far. So we're communicating, or if I'm just moving around the house on everyday basis, and I might be screaming about the dishes being washed or something like that. My daughter will say, "Okay, granny number 3," and that lets me know that I'm acting like my mother, and I'm acting like the old school generation, and that we've had a talk about it to communicate differently, to not yell, to not scream. That I can just say, "Hey, Kaylin, will you come and get these dishes out of the sink?" And trying to do it a new, effective way where they don't feel like they're being tore down, but they have an opinion. And so that's been pretty effective with us.
To piggyback on what you said earlier about how can we kind of work on removing that stereotype and have men not be afraid to approach or discuss the big conversation because of what we don't want to experience, Well, I was sitting here thinking as you was talking, I said to myself, probably women normally lash out or go to that level when they don't feel secure. And so when I think we as men have to, at base level, give our women that security. There's no way to really, really bond with them without making them feel secure. And I think if you don't give them a steady platform to reside on, they're gonna be all over the place. And this is not. And when you go to have going to have some sort of big exchange. In their mind, they're thinking, I got feelings for him, but I don't feel any kind of foundation here.
Right.
And at any moment, he's going to leave. What's going to happen to me, and all these things, and so it makes them lash out.
Okay.
So I think we can begin with repairing the breach of lack of security, and start there, and then see how things can work from there. And then leave. So I'm playing. No, so yeah, I mean, let's see, what else I put in here?
Can we talk about this part of communication for a quick moment?
Okay.
When you communicate with somebody about something and you say one thing, but they've heard something completely different, and whether that is this relationship isn't working for me, I like to move on, and they're like, oh, I just need to give them some time or some space. They refuse to accept what you said, and no matter which way you put it, in any form or fashion, they hear or perceive what they want to hear.
Yeah.
And that's a common thing. That's a situation where people have made up in their mind, you know what, Rhonda's just tripping. She'll be okay tomorrow.
Right.
And when really Rhonda's like, look, I'm done with you. Go on somewhere.
Right.
But they are addicted to punishment. Some people like abuse. And so, because really that's the only thing you're experiencing when you're latching on to someone who don't want you to hold on.
Wow.
It's abusive. Just imagine you going through your life and it's like you handcuffed to someone. You're not paying them any attention. You're walking this way, they're just being dragged. The weather, snow, whatever, slush in the water. You don't care. Because that's the equivalent. When you don't care what happens to them, if we're being honest. And so people that want to hold on to you when they know clearly you have gave them the signs of, I don't want to be with you.
I feel like guys do that.
What, hold on to what?
They be I feel like guys be holding on. Yeah. No, I'm not saying women don't, but I feel like guys be holding on, and you be like, hey, and I feel like I'm very communicative. I absolutely, I'm very, just like Charles said, very over. Shut up.
He made you say over.
I'm going to knock your Anyway, I think that sometimes they haven't made in their mind like, what? How could you not want to be with me?
Right.
Yeah. There's ego in there. There's ego in there. And then, but see, again, most of that is based off their experience with you. At some point along the way, they thought, oh, yeah, now he's sweating me. So on the flip side of it, but on the flip side of it, when they see something different, they're like, oh, she just tripping. She just tripping.
I communicate extremely well. Like, if I'm not interested, you know I'm not interested.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not interested.
But here's another part we need to help. Let's help some folks on tonight with this part. Okay. Learning the cues of when communication is happening, but you're not listening. Right. So when you let's go into Rhonda's wheelhouse. In the bed. Right. In the bed. No, I'm joking. You know, this is Rhonda's wheelhouse, man. Come on, this is Rhonda. Let's get it popping.
Go ahead.
But in the bed, here's a big thing.
Mind y'all still have my headache. It hasn't been.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Give
But in the bed atmosphere, let's make it cleaner. In the bed atmosphere, right?
Oh, you was making it dirtier before?
People don't realize. I was going to take another direction. People don't realize how much communication happens during sex. You don't think, but it's a lot. I'm going to tell you, when people are super embracive, super tender, super kissing to you, super close to you, all that, they're letting you know, hey, you are valued. And I don't mean do it just until you get the act and then you don't do it.
Right.
I'm talking about the whole experience. You kind of are there.
Right.
But when you have the situations where people come in there, they don't really care how they present. They just come in bed, lay there. And then there is the, when you be surprised people that have, people are doing, they do this stuff and they get there and then it's like, it's so disconnected. You can feel it. If you're honest, you can feel when someone is disconnected from you. And they are kind of shutting you off and they're like, look, You can have that part, but stay away from over here.
Right.
And you got to be able to read the signs.
Wow.
And so that's
but that's just not in the bedroom. That's every area of body language. That can be if you're walking through the mall and they're walking like 10 feet ahead of you.
But check this out.
Not holding your hand.
This is where listen, if you miss it in the bed, you miss it everywhere. One of the most important places to catch it is in the bed, because that's where it all drops and comes. If it doesn't work there, that's a huge sign.
What if you haven't made it like
to the bed
yet, and you're just communicating? I think another form is an inability for people to kind of like listen to who they are, like even before you get to the bedroom.
Well, you know that's a sign of that's saying they're not saying that you aren't a person of value. They're just saying I'm not ready to recognize your value yet, so you stay right here. That's what that means.
And I think, but you have relationships that have carried on for like months and months and months, even upwards to a year, and the person is still kind of has a wall up. And at this point, if you guys are intimate in the bedroom, like things are not connecting all over the place. Communication is absent in various areas.
And that's a sign of a serious issue. That's a red flag. That's a red flag.
But you know why the person hang around?
Were you leading to a question?
Yeah, I was just bringing up some instances, but the people hang around in those instances because at base level, there is still some sort of exchange. Even if it's sex, it's an exchange of communication. It's just their preferable means.
Okay.
I'm okay with doing this with you, but I don't feel like really talking about or shedding any other parts of my life but this.
Right.
That's what that's something to something to look at, right? And so when you're in a space with somebody, and when people do not talk about life forward with you, huge flag.
Well, yeah.
When people are invested in you, they talk about life forward.
Yeah.
If you don't talk about life forward, listen. They're you are confined to this area.
You're just hearing.
Let's not talk about that unless the person has said to you, unless they have said, look, I have this issue, I'm dealing with this, but I'm working on it. They're at least giving you a map, right? Okay. When somebody don't give you anything, but just flat out, they're just letting you know, we're not really going past this wall. We're at an impasse.
Wow.
But I don't mind residing here and stop taking I'll take the oar out the water and let the boat just drift.
So you have restricted and or limited access to that person.
Correct.
Interesting.
And that situation is plagued with communication problems, both physically and verbally. Coffee says the bed should not be the indicator. The vertical communication should always come before horizontal. It ends there, not starts there.
Well, unfortunately, P. Coffee. The horizontal language is winning today. That's what it is. Today, people are laying first and considering later.
But what about the opposite side of that? I know for some women, I may be men too, but I know for some of my friends, I've heard them tell stories like this. They'll think because the sex is good and he's sexing them real good, that means the relationship is good, or it means that he's into them, and that's not necessarily that does not mean that.
That just means he or she enjoys sex.
Right, but they're thinking that that's the communication. Like, oh no, but the sex is really good. He be all over me, but he don't call you after that.
But guess what? For a woman or a man, that's just them. Guess what? That's called branding. They're sticking by their brand. Their brand is good sex. So you're not going to be able to deal with me wrong without knowing I got good sex. That don't mean that
it goes back to what we just said about people not really receiving what the real communication is, and then kind of just getting out of it what they think.
Right. No, you're right. Well, you're right. What they want to interpret out of it.
It's
Instead
like,
of just
sex
listening.
is good, he's into me while we having sex, but then, okay, so you have sex with him Saturday night after a party or whatever, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you don't hear from him until Saturday. And they like, oh, it's things are going well. It's not going well.
But you know, one of the biggest misconceptions that we do, and we're getting late, is we do not just simply, at this age, I think we should just have the conversation. Why live in ambiguity, right?
Yeah,
if you don't understand something, because this is the day where people move funny. People move all kind of weird ways that if you don't talk, you sitting back giving yourself a headache. I think he meant this. Maybe you're going. This is a grown person, and if you can't mark their steps, you lost. So the only way to deal with that is to be like, look, you and I have been dealing for X amount of months, year, whatever. I know we've had some challenges here, we've had some victories over here, but I'm a little confused because sometimes when you say certain things, it makes me feel like we are at mute point.
Right.
Help me with this.
Yeah.
Then go from there.
I think that for anybody who feels like they're afraid to have that conversation because you are afraid of losing that person or losing that relationship has already lost.
Correct.
Because if you lose the communication, you have nothing to build on anyway.
Right.
Well, one of the worst things to hold on to, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how much we enjoy it, but the worst communication to hold on to is sex.
Yes.
The best, I don't care. As much as I can say I may enjoy the other side of the fence, right? I enjoy great dialogue more than anything.
Yeah.
If I can have a conversation with a person and laugh or talk about life or stuff or what's going on, that's better than anything to me. The other part is just action played out when you're tired. Other than that, whatever.
Great sex followed up with great communication.
Correct.
Afterwards,
It's great.
talking and discussing your future or the past or how you grew up, your childhood, whatever is the best. Yeah.
But that's why people should approach communication. Stop coming with your orders. People come like now. They're coming with it's like a waiter coming back. Here, this is their order. Save the order and let's just talk. I don't need to hear your order yet. Let's just talk and get to know you. But everybody comes to you with all these orders on the menu. You're like, wait a minute, we don't even serve this. Hold on.
You
all this stuff.
You haven't even got the
correct. People can't come to you and have talks without bringing this list.
Right.
I'm like, we just trying to talk and get to know each other. Forget all those wants and desires. I don't even know if I'm gonna like you first.
Right.
Let's deal with that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, right.
That's
yes.
That's real.
So real quick, Mr. Ford, I know you like to have your altar call benediction. Do you have a quick words?
I'm about to hurt you.
Before
You said what now?
Do you have any quick words before we leave?
I mean, I think again, like I said from the very beginning, I think a critical part of communication is listening. Practice your listening skills. Practice listening actively because we do a lot of passive listening.
Right.
We do.
Right.
But let's practice some active listening to our partner and really give it back to them the way they gave it to us. You know what I'm saying? I think that's going to be the way that you build a solid foundation of communication, effective communication between you and your partner.
Right. Right.
Communicate before you fornicate.
Communicate before you fornicate.
Oh, wow.
I did that.
Y'all know how I feel about rhyming my rapping skills.
Lord,
Rhonda said, communicate before you fornicate. That's the somebody.
For the rest of the week.
Somebody hashtag Rhonda.
Please hashtag that.
Hashtag what Rhonda said. She said Rhonda said communicate.
Oh my God.
Go ahead. Because you're right. Because guess what, Rhonda? In all seriousness, once you as Rhonda put it, once you fornicate before you communicate it, all other things have been alleviated. It's a wrap. You're right. It's unfortunately, but it happens. And I'm not saying it doesn't always work because sometimes people can just simply value you enough to carry the ball over the finish line.
I got one more to add to it.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Communicate before you.
Oh, my goodness.
God.
What are you doing?
Communicate before you fornicate, before they vacate. There you go.
What?
That's my JC rapping skills. Y'all
Yes.
not ready
Okay,
for.
got you. All right.
Communicate before you fornicate, before they
vacate.
vacate.
Ooh.
Lord,
No, that's wrong.
y'all heard it here.
That was wrong.
Y'all heard it here. Rough shot rundown.
So you know what? And I'm gonna give it to the speaker of clarity and the definite voice. Here's another thing. Rhonda's feeding me all these thoughts. But here's the thing.
Come on, y'all.
Think about premature sex like this.
I'm serious.
When it happens, whether it's a woman or man, whoever, it's not for the sake of Janice. Woman or man, when it happens, right? When you have premature sex without the establishment of communication, think about it. What happens is we really put the other person in an unfair position because now we're saying, okay, I didn't think this through. So what are you gonna do with me?
Right.
They don't know.
Right.
So when people don't know what to do with you, that's why you're left often feeling like you just floating in purgatory because they don't know what to do with you, and they have turned you over to a what?
Reprobate mind?
That's it.
I can't believe I knew that trash.
So this is what happens, and so that's why as much as we all have been guilty of this, the practice is to get better with it and establish the communication first. Because when you start the feelings first, it almost always messes up stuff all the time. All the time. So yeah. Now we can hear the benediction from Natalie.
I don't have a lot for you guys. I'm done with you all tonight. But what I will say is I think every conversation, the important thing is to get to a space where you guys are happy and mutually respect each other. So if you're having a tough conversation, just remember that you're not always going to agree.
Right.
Find a way to compromise and get to a better place.
That's good.
That sounds like a Natalie that has grown. But anyway.
Wow.
So, all right. On that note,
you know what?
Thanks everybody for turning in.
I'm tired to attack him tonight, but I swear I will be well rested for next Monday.
You gonna get him?
Man, it's only problem.
Oh, really quick before we go, y'all. Tonight, now I want to clear up some confusion. We are still under the conglomerate of Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio, right?
Yeah.
However, this platform that you guys are seeing here in this particular space, we have embraced it as the new conversation room. That's really what, you know why? I'm going to tell you why I came up with this. Mm-hmm. If you look around in this particular room, there's plenty of things that you can look at and have a conversation about. You can be like, see, I meant it more so than verbal. Okay. It's more or less, oh, look, what is that? What is this? What is that? Their conversation thing. Yeah. What is that?
What is that?
Primitive ape.
Yeah.
So you got plenty. So you got plenty of things. So we call this the conversation room, and this is where it's going to go down. This is where
the conversation corner, but it's not.
It's the conversation room. I know. It's on.
I like the conversation corner.
I like the conversation corner
because it's a corner.
Well, guess what? We didn't already pay you for the thing. We ain't changing it. It's the conversation room.
Other people that call things a conversation room. I've heard that term.
Okay, well, if we have to reach that, yeah, we can.
I don't know.
He done messed up. I'm not going back and changing the flyers. Anyway, here's the thing. Anyway, so very quick. All right, and so going forward, you guys will see I'm single. It'll probably be played out here, or in an area of here. You'll see the dating youth services played out here, and Friday Night Fiction will likely be online, and maybe some here
somewhere else. Okay.
Some here too. So these things are coming really soon. Spring is here. We're gonna flip the script.
Spring is not here, but
spring will be here
soon,
and we're gonna flip the script on something.
It's 50 degrees outside.
Well, good.
Maybe less.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in on tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will touch back. Base. Oh, Sharon Cope says, I'm an artist. Love the artwork and conversation. Thanks, Sharon. Send over some of your work and we'll promote it for you. Anyway, all right, guys. It's been real. We will see you guys next week. Tomorrow night, if those of you all that like this type of platform, myself, and if you look in the comments, you'll see the lady who can't shut up. Her name is P. Coffee. Her and I have a show.
Dad, P. Coffee.
Her and I have a show called.
He just did that to you, P. Coffee.
Yeah, her and I have a show called The Hot Seat. And tomorrow's show topic is going to be talking about, can your fingers really find love? Talking about online dating. And trying to say, how successful can you be dating on, online DMs, all those kind of things. So we're going to talk about all those things. Maybe you can call him. So, all right. We will go from there, and that'll be tomorrow at 8 p.m. the same platform. You can come on my page, you'll see it there too. Anyway, all right, look forward to seeing you guys soon, and we will be out.
All right, cool. Peace.
I don't know about